The humid Georgia air hung heavy as I meticulously detailed my brand new, gleaming white Mercedes. After years of grinding, double shifts, ramen dinners, and sacrificing every luxury, I finally possessed the car I'd dreamt of since I was a kid. The sleek lines, the luxurious leather interior, the powerful engine, it was more than just a car, it was a tangible symbol of my hard work, a testament to my dedication. I was running a microfiber cloth over the hood, admiring the way the sunlight reflected off the pristine paint job, when I heard the unmistakable sound of Karen's voice, shrill and grating, carried on the breeze. Karen Gomez, my neighbor, a woman whose name had become synonymous with drama and entitlement in our quiet cul-de-sac. She was notorious for her complaints, her incessant need to control everything around her, and her uncanny ability to find fault in even the most innocuous situations. I sighed inwardly, bracing myself. I'd tried to avoid her ever since she moved in, but her radar seemed to be acutely tuned to my presence. She stomped across her lawn, her face contorted into a mask of displeasure. "Mike Thomas," she screeched, her voice echoing across the manicured lawns. That thing is an eyesore. It doesn't belong in this neighborhood." I straightened up, holding onto my rag, trying to keep the peace. "Good morning, Karen. Is there a problem?" I asked, attempting to maintain a neutral tone. I already knew there was a problem. Karen always had a problem. "A problem?" she scoffed, planting her hands on her hips. "That's putting it mildly. That car is a problem. It's ostentatious, it's vulgar, and it's completely inappropriate." I bit back a retort. Arguing with Karen was like wrestling a pig in mud, everyone gets dirty, and the pig enjoys it. "I worked hard for this car, Karen. I'm proud of it." Her eyes narrowed, focusing on the Mercedes emblem on the hood. A sickly green hue seemed to tinge her complexion. "You worked hard." "Ha! Don't give me that garbage. I know your type. This car is sitting in my neighborhood and it's extremely offensive. I am offended and something needs to be done about it," she continued, her voice rising in pitch. "You're offended? By a car?" I was genuinely bewildered. Was this some kind of elaborate prank? "It's not just a car, Mike. It's a symbol. A symbol of everything that's wrong with this world. You think you can just waltz in here and flaunt your wealth? Disgusting." I took a deep breath, trying to maintain some semblance of composure. "Karen, with all due respect, I'm not flaunting anything," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "I bought this car with my own money, and I'm entitled to enjoy it." Her face twisted into a sneer. "Enjoy it? Oh, I'm sure you are. Probably driving around town, showing off to all your friends." The veiled implication hung in the air, thick and heavy. I ignored it, deciding to focus on the ludicrousness of the situation. "Karen, what exactly do you want me to do? Hide the car in the garage?" Her eyes gleamed with a strange, predatory light. "No," she said, her voice dropping to a low, almost conspiratorial whisper. "I have a better idea." She took a step closer, invading my personal space. The scent of cheap perfume and stale cigarettes assaulted my nostrils. "I'll take it off your hands." I frowned, confused. "Take it off my hands? What do you mean?" She smirked, a truly unsettling expression on her face. "I'll buy it from you." I couldn't help but chuckle. "Okay, Karen. I appreciate the offer, but I'm not looking to sell." Her smirk widened. "Oh, but you will sell it to me. For $1. I stared at her, dumbfounded. $1? Are you serious?" I asked, searching her face for any sign that this was some kind of bizarre joke. But her expression was dead serious, a chilling mixture of entitlement and malice. "That's right, Mike. $1. It's more than you deserve for even having such a fancy car around here. You should be grateful that I am even offering this." I burst out laughing. The absurdity of the situation was too much to bear. "Karen, I'm sorry, but that's ridiculous. I'm not selling my car for $1. Or for any amount of money, for that matter. I just bought it." Her eyes flashed with anger. "You dare refuse me? You think you can just dismiss my offer? You clearly don't know who you're dealing with, Mike Thomas." I sighed, running a hand through my hair. "Karen, I'm not trying to be difficult. I just don't want to sell my car." Her face went crimson with rage. "Fine," she shrieked, her voice reaching an ear-splitting pitch. "You leave me no choice. I'm calling the police. You'll regret this. You'll regret ever crossing me." She spun on her heel and stormed back towards her house, muttering threats under her breath. I watched her go, shaking my head in disbelief. I couldn't believe this was happening. Was she really going to call the police over this? I considered going inside, but I knew that wouldn't stop her. She would just escalate the situation further. So, I decided to stay put and wait. Little did I know, the next few minutes would change everything. As Karen disappeared inside her house, I stood there, paralyzed by a mixture of disbelief and apprehension. I couldn't shake off the feeling that things were about to get much worse. Sure enough, moments later, I heard her shrill voice echoing from inside her house, presumably speaking to a 911 dispatcher. I couldn't make out the exact words, but I could hear the frantic tone and the unmistakable sound of her voice rising in hysteria. My heart began to pound in my chest. This was really happening. She was actually calling the police because I refused to sell her my car for $1. It was beyond absurd, it was surreal. I tried to reason with myself. The police would see through her charade. They would recognize that this was nothing more than a petty dispute between neighbors. But a nagging voice in the back of my mind whispered doubts. I was a black man standing in front of my new car in a predominantly white neighborhood. How would that look to the police? Would they be impartial, or would they be influenced by Karen's lies and prejudices? The sound of sirens screeching in the distance jolted me back to reality. They were coming. Fast. I took a deep breath, trying to compose myself. I had to remain calm, explain the situation clearly, and hope that the officers would listen to reason. A police cruiser screeched to a halt at the curb, followed by another. 2 officers emerged, their faces grim. They immediately focused on me, their eyes scanning me from head to toe. "Mike Thomas?" one of them asked, his voice stern. "Yes, officer," I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. "We received a call about a disturbance here," the officer said, his gaze unwavering. "Karen Gomez reported." He paused, glancing at his notepad. "Reported that you were harassing her and threatening her." My stomach dropped. Harassing? Threatening? This was a complete fabrication. "That's not true, officer," I protested. "She approached me and demanded that I sell her my car for $1. When I refused, she threatened to call the police." The officer raised an eyebrow, his expression skeptical. "Is that so? And what were you doing before we arrived?" "I was washing my car," I said, gesturing towards the Mercedes. "You can see for yourself that there's no disturbance here." The officers exchanged glances, seemingly unconvinced. One of them approached the car, circling it slowly, his eyes lingering on the expensive features. The other officer remained focused on me, his hand resting on his holster. "We need to hear Ms. Gomez's side of the story," he said, his voice still stern. "Please wait here." He gestured towards the sidewalk, indicating that I should move away from the car. I reluctantly complied, my anxiety levels skyrocketing. As the officers approached Karen's house, I could hear her voice, still shrill and agitated, emanating from within. The front door opened, and Karen emerged, her face flushed and her eyes wide. She launched herself towards the officers, gesticulating wildly and spewing a torrent of accusations. "He's a menace," she shrieked, pointing at me. He's been harassing me for months. And now he's threatening me. He won't leave me alone. I'm scared for my life. I stood there, dumbfounded, as Karen continued her rant. The officers listened intently, their expressions unreadable. I could see them nodding occasionally, seemingly taking her claims at face value. This was a nightmare unfolding before my eyes. I was being falsely accused of harassment and threats, and the police seemed to be buying into Karen's lies. After a few minutes of listening to Karen's accusations, the officers turned their attention back to me. "Mr. Thomas," one of them said, his voice hardening, "we need to ask you to step over here." He gestured towards the police cruiser. I hesitated, my mind racing. I knew this wasn't going to end well. "Officer, I'm telling you the truth," I pleaded. "She's making this up. She's just angry because I wouldn't sell her my car." The officer remained unmoved. "Please step over here, Mr. Thomas." With a heavy heart, I walked towards the cruiser. As I approached, the officer reached for his handcuffs. "We're going to have to detain you while we investigate this matter further," he said, his voice devoid of emotion. The cold steel of the handcuffs bit into my wrists. I was being arrested. For what? For refusing to sell my car to a delusional woman for $1. It was beyond comprehension. As the officers led me towards the cruiser, I felt a surge of anger and despair. This wasn't justice. This was prejudice. This was a blatant abuse of power. I wanted to scream, to fight back, but I knew that would only make things worse. I was trapped, powerless, at the mercy of a system that seemed determined to believe the lies of a manipulative woman. As the officers were placing me in the back of the police cruiser, a voice rang out, cutting through the tension in the air. "Hold on a minute. What's going on here?" I turned my head and saw Ms. Carter, another neighbor, standing on her porch, her arms crossed and a determined look on her face. Ms. Carter was a kind, elderly woman who had lived in the neighborhood for years. She was known for her sharp wit and her unwavering sense of justice. I had always appreciated her friendly demeanor and her willingness to help others. Now, it seemed, she was about to come to my rescue. The officers stopped what they were doing and turned their attention to Ms. Carter. "Ma'am, this is a police matter," one of them said, his voice curt. "We need you to stay out of this." Ms. Carter stood her ground. "I saw everything that happened," she said, her voice firm. "Karen Gomez is lying. Mike Thomas didn't do anything wrong." The officers exchanged glances, their expressions shifting from annoyance to uncertainty. "Ma'am, with all due respect, we have to investigate this matter thoroughly," one of them said. "Ms. Gomez has filed a complaint." Ms. Carter scoffed. "That woman is always filing complaints. She's a troublemaker. She's been harassing Mike ever since he moved in. She even tried to get the HOA to fine him for having a too nice lawn, I kid you not. And now she's trying to get him arrested for refusing to sell her his car for $1. It's absurd." The officers looked at each other again, clearly unsure of how to proceed. Ms. Carter's testimony was throwing a wrench into their narrative. "Ma'am, are you saying that you witnessed the entire incident?" one of them asked. "Every single word," Ms. Carter replied, her eyes unwavering. "I heard Karen yelling at Mike about his car. I heard her demand that he sell it to her for $1. And I heard her threaten to call the police when he refused. Mike Thomas did nothing to provoke her. He was just standing in his driveway, minding his own business." The officers were visibly flustered. They clearly hadn't expected to encounter a credible witness who contradicted Karen's claims. They looked back at Karen, who was now standing on her porch, her face contorted with rage. "She's lying!" Karen shrieked, her voice reaching a fever pitch. "She's always been jealous of me. She's just trying to make me look bad." Ms. Carter simply shook her head, her expression one of pity. "Karen, you need to stop this nonsense," she said, her voice calm but firm. "You're embarrassing yourself. The officers turned back to me, their faces filled with a mixture of confusion and embarrassment. One of them approached me and began to unlock the handcuffs. "Mr. Thomas," he said, his voice apologetic, "we're going to have to release you. It seems there's been a misunderstanding." Relief washed over me as the handcuffs clicked open. I rubbed my wrists, feeling the sting of the cold metal. I couldn't believe what had just happened. I had been moments away from being arrested for a crime I didn't commit, all because of the lies of a spiteful neighbor. I turned to Ms. Carter, my heart filled with gratitude. "Thank you, Ms. Carter," I said, my voice choked with emotion. "You saved me." Ms. Carter smiled warmly. "Don't mention it, Mike," she said. "I couldn't stand by and watch them arrest you for something you didn't do. It wasn't right." The officers turned their attention back to Karen, who was now standing on her porch, screaming and ranting incoherently. "You can't believe her," she shrieked, pointing at Ms. Carter. "She's a crazy old woman. She's always been jealous of me. She's trying to ruin my life." Suddenly, Karen snapped. She charged off her porch and ran towards Ms. Carter, her fists clenched. "I'll show you what happens when you mess with me," she screamed. The officers reacted quickly, rushing towards Karen and attempting to restrain her. But Karen was like a woman possessed. She thrashed and screamed, kicking and punching, making it difficult for the officers to subdue her. In the chaos, one of the officers pulled out his taser and fired it at Karen. The taser prong struck her in the back, and she let out a blood-curdling scream as she collapsed to the ground. The officers quickly handcuffed her and helped her to her feet. She was still screaming and ranting, but her movements were now significantly restricted. "Karen Gomez, you are under arrest for filing a false police report, assault, and resisting arrest," one of the officers said, his voice stern. As the officers led Karen towards the police cruiser, she turned to me, her eyes filled with hate. "This isn't over, Mike Thomas," she shrieked. "I'll get you for this. You haven't seen the last of me." I watched as the police cruiser drove away, taking Karen with it. I couldn't help but feel a sense of relief. The nightmare was finally over. At least for now. I knew that Karen would likely hold a grudge and continue to cause trouble, but I was confident that I could handle it. I had the support of my neighbors, and I had the knowledge that I had done nothing wrong. I turned to Ms. Carter, offering her a grateful smile. "Thank you again, Ms. Carter," I said. "I don't know what I would have done without you." Ms. Carter patted my arm reassuringly. "You're a good man, Mike," she said. "Don't let her get you down. Just keep doing what you're doing, and everything will be all right." I nodded, taking her words to heart. I would continue to work hard, to be a good neighbor, and to enjoy the fruits of my labor. And I wouldn't let Karen Gomez, or anyone else, steal my joy. I got back to detailing my Mercedes, the sun glinting off its pristine white surface. It was more than just a car, it was a symbol of my resilience, my determination, and my unwavering belief in the power of hard work and justice.